Hi everyone, I'm Zuzka, the Craftsy Penguin, and I'm fighting a headache today. But hopefully that's gonna go away soon. And I have a small update for you, only a tiny one crafts-wise. So maybe we'll jump straight into it and then I will tell you about the other stuff that's happening if there is time and space and battery life for that. So, what I have recently finished, because I decided to, go through that list of my to-dos from the easiest ones to the more complicated ones. I finished those mitts for Alexa, which were out of that big gingery, brownish and teal colors, big ball of yarn. So finished those. I had to after I finished the first one, which is this one, I wanted to make the other one similar to that color wise, because the repeat in the ball was quite long, and Alex was happy with the blue part there. So I wanted to make the other one with a blue part as well, because otherwise it would be mostly brown. So I unwound part of that ball to get to the part where it would start, with brown and then go into the blue. And I realized that the repeat is different from each side, because I did this one from the center and I tried to do this one from the outside of the ball. So I had to unwind this, and then I started a new mitt, and then I realized it would get also almost all the way brown, so I cut this off and then started a new one. So I have these basically as partial remainders of the ball, and I had to rewind the ball to keep it nice and compact, and it turned out so pretty. Look at it. I love it. I have to say, the ball winder, that was such a good investment, basically. It's such a cool gadget to, make the balls like that, and look at those colors. I love it. I know we don't have the best lighting in here now because it's all gray and overcast outside, but otherwise the sun gets in here in the around noon times and afternoon, and then I can't film in here because that's too bright. So it's basically quite okay like this, but the colors show a bit darker on the camera. But really, this is amazing. And the mitts as well. I think they work pretty nicely. I sorta had to improvise around the pattern that I had. The pattern is from a blogspot, actually, that this creator, they have a blogspot where they published all of their patterns. They have patterns for knitting and crocheting, and the blogspot itself is called Knitting and So On. I believe I'll link it in the description of the video. And these mitts are originally meant for yarn that uses like 3mm hooks, so I had to count with that because I was using, I think, 5mm because the yarn is thicker. So fewer stitches, fewer repeats, all of that. But also this top part was turning out different along the pattern, so I had to adjust the amount of chains there to join around the thumb, which makes sense, and make lesser rows and lesser decreases and all of that. So I had to adapt it a bit, and then I added a band of double crochets around here so that it reaches higher, basically. So I hope Alex is going to be happy with these. She is going to pick them up today, basically, so that's also why I'm filming now. But I was pretty happy while making these. It was easy enough. I just had to make myself, notes about how many rows I did in each part, because the maker of the patterns very nicely divides the whole thing into parts, which are different in the process of making them. So I just had notes, I did this amount of rows in part 1 and this amount of stitches in part 2 and all of that. So that worked pretty nicely, and this pattern was nicely described with all the notes, saying where you should put your markers and all of that, which was cool. Then also found out that I want to put the markers in 2 stitches, where you make 2 decreases or 2 increases side by side, instead of 1 in between that, because in crochet you can't really put a marker in between stitches. So yeah, I did that, but that worked really nicely. But along a pattern from the same maker, I am now making the mitts for Maddie, and for now they look like this, but they are supposed to go like this on the thumb, and I'm working on the part that's gonna wrap around the hand. And they're already looking amazing, as you can see. I am really happy with this, but I had to adjust this as well. And again, because of the thickness of the yarn, I made mittens like these for Cleo last year. It's almost exactly a year ago now, and those were in pan colors, and those were with the 3mm hook that the pattern suggests, although the yarn was a bit thicker and it was a bit tough to make it with that, but it worked. But in that case there was one more repeat of the waves there, so for this one I had to shorten the pattern basically, because otherwise it would reach like here, and that's too much. And I now where I started the wrapping part, I also had to stop the rows going around here earlier than the pattern suggests, because it would get too high on here and it would get uncomfortable, I believe. So again, I should be making notes, and in this case the pattern is sort of more complicated to read. It's in a whole, this is more complex than the other one, but yeah, there is a rhythm that you can get into, and that I got into, also knowing the pattern already from last year, because you are doing these waves all the same, along the pattern. So you have a segment that you can memorize and do from memory, but then this part is different in every row, and it's all very well written in the pattern, but you have to follow, the segments, because they're really different in each row, and to me they don't make a lot of sense. They work, as you can see, but the amount of stitches and repetitions and increases that are in those rows are incomprehensible to me, and I can't see the logic in it, but I believe the creator knew what they were doing. And again, there are some notes to, different stages of the pattern, but for example, this was like 2 days ago, I found a place in the pattern where there is no note, there is just make this row, then make this row, described everything, and it's a row where the amount of these repeats increases by 1. You just start making, one more repeat of the wave pattern there, basically, and there is no note about it. There is just, in this row, you make 3 repeats of this, and in the next row, you make 4 repeats of this, and in the block of text, you just can miss that so easily. So I of course I missed it, and I found out in the row after, which is pretty, early on, but I was like, why is there no, just one row of warning that this is going to happen? So I was like, okay. And it's true that this pattern already, you know, like kicked my butt a bit last year, so I am careful about it. And I like the result, but I believe there are parts that could be written, you know, more understandably, or just it could be improved, I'd say. But I appreciate the work of the creator. They made it quite clear. I believe there are pictures, you know, which show you like after this part it should look like this, after this part and that. It helps me so much. So I'm now working on the first one, and for the second one you just reverse, you know, the sequence of the repeated pattern. So I hope that's gonna work as well, because my brain is not able to wrap around that. So we'll see. But it's progressing really nicely. There is really not much to do here, I believe. So I have, I don't know, about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 of the double rows here to do, which is nice. Also, you can carry the ends here for changing the colors, but it's quite tough to figure out the way to hide them so that they're not as visible from the outside. This is the outside of the mitten, and this is the inside, and you can see they're hidden in there. So it took me again a few rows to figure out the way to hide them, because the original pattern only switches between 2 colors, and then it's quite easy to switch the colors without it making a mess there. But with 3 it's already more complex. So I figured out that in the final decrease of the row I can hide the ends under the working yarn, going between the 2 decreased stitches and then around with the new color. I'd have to show you. It's just it's tough to describe, but yeah, I'm working on that. And also I realized while already working on both of those pairs of mittens that I didn't enter any of this new yarn into my stash. So I'll have to do that retroactively on Ravelry. I know that the ball of this autumny and teal color yarn was exactly as it was written on the label. It was 300 grams, but I haven't weighed these big soft ones, so I just I'll have to believe the label, you know, and enter it as it was and as it ends up being after I finish the mittens. And I can already see there will be so much of it remaining, so I'll be probably making hats or something out of that. I also want to make a hat out of this. I think a divine hat or something like that out of this would be great. So I'll maybe ask Alex if she wants you know, a hat to pair with the mittens, and otherwise I can just offer that to someone. Also, I had some hats from last year which I took with me to our tea room gathering and offered, you know, freely to my friends, and 2 of them got taken, so that's that's absolutely amazing, and I'm happy that someone is going to wear those hats instead of them laying in a box, you know, in my storage. So that's really cool. I'll have to take some of the remaining plushies also that I have with me somewhere and offer them to people to sort of get rid of them, but basically to not have them sitting in a box being sad and not used. So we'll see about that. What I was doing otherwise was a new thing a bit, which took quite a lot of my brain space, and it was sort of this hyperfocus thing, but not really, but yeah, I spent a few days on it, and now I'm taking a pause, essentially, and then I want to dive into it again, because I need to do it in these, you know, batches so that I don't turn crazy. I started working on improving our knowledge on our family tree, because I sort of interviewed my mom last year and have written this paper with, all the relationships in the family, going back to my great-grandmother on one side and great-great-grandmother on the other side. And it was just everything that mom knew, and she remembers, dates and places and all of that. So wherever she knew anything, I just marked it on the family tree of hers, basically. And a week ago, I did the same with my dad, who on one side of his family has a lot of these documents saved. So we went through those marriage certificates, and birth records and all of that, and used that. So we got to my great-great-great-grandmother on one side, and in 1/4 of the family, basically, and to my great-grandfather on the other side. And on the other side of my father's line, basically in the line of his father, we only got to his father and his siblings and to their parents, basically. So that's my great-grandfather and great-grandmother. And I did all of that on paper, and then I considered using some of these, online or software sources to digitalize all of that, and then looking into the archives, because a lot of Czech archives already have their phones digitalized, so you can browse their sources from your PC, basically, which is so cool. I love it, because a few years ago you still needed to go to all of these archives and order out these books from storage and go through it individually and just look through the papers. And now some of them, not all of them, but most of them, you can go through digitally, which is so cool, because it also has some, hurdles and struggles there, because one part of the family is from this quite remote village in the mountains, in the northern Moravia, basically, in Wallachia, and Czech Wallachia, not the Romanian one. And that's quite a small amount of people, to sift through to find our relatives, or our distant, ancestors. And there are few names in the family that are pretty distinctive in that region, so you can just follow the name and compare the dates that you find in the books and all of that. So there it was kind of easier until I got to like 1850s, and the font of the writing changed. They were using German before that, and they were writing in current, which is written form of Schwabach, which I can read, but sometimes if the writer was, messy a bit or something, it's hard to read. So you need some time to get accustomed to it, get your eyes, into the puzzling mode and find out the stuff that is written in there. But this is like 1/4 of Mom's line. The other quarter is, it's 1/2 of Mom's line is from that village. And the other half is from this like mid-sized city in Czech Republic, in eastern Czech region. So there's so much more people, and the books are so bigger, there are also the name starts with a letter that is really common, so you are going through pages and pages and pages of just the index of names starting with that letter. So you're sifting through so many people and so many entries in the books. So there it's more complex, but I found something that really helped in that line. So I got, to one generation more in there, and I need to dig more in that line. And then my father's line is basically partly also like smaller, not villages, but smaller towns, and also some villages in the northern part of the Czech region and near the mountains. And the other part is just in Prague and surrounding Prague, you know. So then when I get to that, that's gonna get so complicated because, you know, that's the greatest city. It was also, of course, you know, separated into different parts of the city, and the villages around it that are now part of the city but were independent before. So they had their own books, their own records, and now they are in the local archives, you know, in Prague. So that's gonna get more complex. That's gonna be a lot of sifting through that. But yeah, you know, I get it now why having your family tree explored by someone else and given to you, you know, in the finished form is so expensive, because you can spend like 2 hours researching one marriage, you know, and you can spend 3 hours looking for one person's place of birth and then finding their entry in the book. So yeah, it gets complicated, but it's so fun, and it's something that ties to the stuff that I studied. I almost got into, you know, archival studies. I went for general history then, but it was a thing that I did the exams for university and passed them, so I had the choice to go there, and I was always so interested in this. So yeah, this took a lot of my brain space, but I was really happy with that. So that helped, and it was fun, and it was interesting to be, you know, sitting in the evenings at my computer. My husband was beside me playing his, you know, computer games and all of that stuff, and I was looking through the old writings, and I was like, I found something. And oh, this is interesting, because there are some relationships in the family that are just like, I wouldn't say spicy, but there are some, you know, connections that were like, well, yeah, it was a small city or a small village, and they were somehow related, and they got married, and all of that. But yeah, that happens. Anyways, yeah, I was working on that. Another thing that I mentioned last time that I did now was taking that baby wrap fabric to the girl that's gonna try and make a coat out of that. She took my measurements, she took the fabric, she's gonna make a mock-up. We are gonna, you know, check if the pattern fits or doesn't, or if it needs some alterations and all of that, and how it fits on the fabric as well, how long the coat is gonna be and all of that. So that's in the process. I'm waiting to get a message from her in, you know, 2 weeks time or something, because I was there only 3 days ago or something like that. So yeah, and by the same time, basically, Ginny contacted me. My friend Ginny offered to make me a corset ages ago, and these ages ago are not her fault. They're mine, because in the meantime I had kids. Well, I had the second one. We started talking about it after the first one, but it was apparent that, you know, the changes in the body are going to happen after the second child. So we were waiting basically for all of that to settle. And now that I'm not breastfeeding anymore, and the kid is big enough and all of that, and it looks like my body is not gonna change that much, you know, in the coming years, I hope. So she already had a mock-up for me before. She had my measurements, but we remeasured, and she's gonna remake a mock-up so that we can see how it fits now, and make also some alterations. And she offered to make it again out of a baby wearing fabric. So I have some I wouldn't say scraps, but pieces of fabric for that, and not just one. So I'm sort of hoping she would be able to make me more of those corsets, but we'll see after the first one how it fits, how the fabric works and all of that, and we'll see about that then. So that's in the making. It's gonna be probably a longer process, and it's someone else's craftsy stuff, but I will keep you updated on that. Anyways, that's all that I'm remembering right now. As I said, I have this list on my phone now for all of these things. So all the events, all the to-dos other than craftsy stuff, and also the craftsy stuff as well. So I'm looking at that and I'm seeing some stuff that I am supposed to do soon. Also, there's, the commission for the long cat and all of that, but that's not time sensitive. What is time sensitive is this craft challenge, which is a community project, and it's gonna be sort of a surprise, I believe, so I'm not gonna tell you a lot about that, but it involves some sewing and some fabrics for my stash, so I should explore that and look into that and do it. I have some plan, but I need to finalize that and then really do the thing, and I believe in the end I will be able to show you my part of the thing, because as I said, it's a community project and I will be sending my thing off to someone to finish it and all of that. So more details on that later, and more details on the other crafty stuff as well, because I'm really trying to take it one by one. So my cardigan, the blue one, is laying in its bag untouched. Mom's cardigan as well, I just took a pause on that. The long cat as well. Those are all, around my table in the living room, but yeah, the Kalinda shawl is not started. All of that. I have plans, and I do realize they'll take quite some time, because I just don't have that much time now, and sometimes I just don't have the right thoughts for that. I'm just sitting and watching something or listening to something, and I'm also working on preparing my diary or calendar for next year, because I had both dated weekly diary for this year, but for next year I have this Scribbles That Matter notebook, which I'm turning into a calendar, a diary. So I'm doing all the lines and numbers and stickers and everything, and I'm trying to make it nice. And yeah, so I'm working on that as well. And it's taken more time than I expected, but I have such a ton of stickers and washi tapes and markers and all of that, which from a video that I made like more than a year ago, I believe, about all of my craftsy stuff. So yeah, I'm working on that as well. I might show you in some future video how that's looking, because it's a work in progress for now, but I already need a diary for the new year, because events are being appointed and I need to write them down and all of that. I have it on my phone, I have it in the old diary, but New Year stuff, all of that. So yeah, I believe that's already quite a long one. I'm happy you decided to spend your time with me today. Thank you for watching. Comment the video, like the video, share the video if you wish so. Visit my socials, which are linked in the description of the video. And for now, have a great time. Enjoy crafting, enjoy creating, and enjoy the colors. Goodbye.